Thank you for this nice introduction. We heard a lot about retrofitting. Now I'd like to talk about the world of the connectivity and light control. And renovation, retrofitting is also important because we all know that sometimes it's not that easy. So I'd like to tell you about criteria we are using at ZVI and what you can expect from a good light control system, especially when we talk about wireless systems and retrofitting. So the overarching message is switching on and switching off. That's not enough. On the one hand, we have great opportunities. We have great information, guidelines from licht.de for light control. And we don't want to miss these advantages for a while. But we also have new legal requirements. And indeed, switching on and off, that won't be enough in the long run. So I think the possibility to have a light control for bigger renovation projects will be important. It is also important to say it doesn't have to be enough because it's less complicated than it used to be in the past. The installation of very good lighting control systems is no longer as complicated because we have wireless communication. Without electrical new installations, install new lights and have this very nice light control unit. Light is part of architecture. While I'm here on stage, I'd like to be able to read my script. I took some notes. Light is important. No glare, no dazzle. People who will work here, clean the space, have other requirements. Light has to be able to adapt to people who use the building, who live in the building. And the right light at the right time, at the right space. That's decisive. You all know the typical application cases. You have a conference room, different scenarios, no dazzle, no glare. You want to see the presentations on screen. You want to be able to read or write something, take notes while sitting at the table. But there are other scenarios. Maybe you want to use the room without presentations, just to meet and talk. Or you want to invite guests, so you use the room in different areas. So that's something that light control can support in a wonderful way. So we adapt. Light control has a big potential when we talk about energy savings. That's very important, and as the other speakers have said, it is a very big topic. In rooms that we're not using permanently, in the staircases, you have the savings potential of 80% of energy. And you have a great CO2 footprint reduction. Light also has to do with health and safety. HCL, you heard about the term HCL. I don't want to go into detail because there are lots of literature from licht.de on this topic. Everything has to be time efficient and cost efficient, and one should tap the potentials in order to increase the value of your building. Oftentimes we hear comments, what is more expensive? It's expensive to install it. If you look at it, 3 years in operation, it's not that expensive really. You save the energy. And it's pretty easy to calculate your savings. Of course, the owner of the building, the tenant, has to help you, but I think it's pretty easy. That's a message that is easy to convey. Yesterday, we had the Lighting Europe presentation with the introduction of LEDs. Energy consumption of lighting applications was reduced. In 2019, we talked about 19%. Of the overall worldwide energy consumption was due to lighting solutions. In 2019, only 35.5% savings. I hear this topic time again. Energy consumption, Electrification, people use LEDs, it's done. No, ladies and gentlemen, it's not done. So we're still waiting for more people to use LED, and there is a big growth range when we talk about population growth, urbanization, aging societies. We always have a clear increase for lighting solutions and requirements. And without intelligent solutions, we'll just have a minimum and then we'll grow. And then we'll be responsible again for a CO2 manufacturing if there is no intelligent lighting control system. So it is important to invest. There are big potentials. You have time control, daylight control, detecting human presence in the room. A lot of potential if you combine these solutions. You can tap an even bigger potential if you combine. And just think about the ecological idea within the building with a good lighting control system. Light and health. If you have young children in school or teenagers, first class in school is not the easiest, especially if it's still dark in the morning. How come? It's hormones, it's day and night rhythm, and for teenagers it's even more skewed. For elderly people it changes too. And light has a big influence on day and night cycle. And light can be very important when we talk about people's focus in companies. A lot of light helps to keep you focused. A lot of blue light in the morning until the afternoon, and then you have the dip in the afternoon to bridge it and keep going, keep on being focused. And at night, the light value, especially blue light percentage, should be reduced. That would be very important for the sleep-wake rhythm for the day and night cycles. With LED, it's no longer difficult. If you can install something that's called a tunable light, that would be ideal. But also controlling the light level helps you to support your sleep-wake rhythm, and maybe less light in the afternoon in areas that you use less in your house, in your home. Legal requirements. A couple of weeks ago, we had the novel reading of the new European Energy Efficiency Directive. The first draft was from 2010. For us as the lighting industry, it is very important to know that for bigger renovation projects, we have the IEQ, Indoor Environmental Quality Index, has to be taken into account. We talk about different factors, also light. And as of 2028, in bigger areas, bigger renovation projects, and that's defined by the energy consumption of the building, we have the light control that is required, checking whether presence detectors are important, because the lawmaking bodies, legislators, have understood that there is big potential for energy savings and ecological footprint of the buildings. It's very critical for our CO2 savings. As of 2030, we talk about smaller and medium-sized buildings. And if we talk about renovation projects as of a certain size, these are the factors. And a presence detector will be important. That's the original text from Lighting Europe. You see the figures. And I'm happy to discuss the topic with you later. We also need a renovation certificate. That'll be discussed. Whether you need a documentation duty, like a renovation certificate for the results that we have, and how people really comply with the IEQ. Let me talk about problems you may encounter if you want to renovate a building and what you are asking for. You're supposed to retrofit. Maybe you're not retrofitting the entire building. Maybe you cannot have new wiring not everywhere in your building, especially if it's a historical building or even a listed building. Many of you maybe know about DALI, for instance, but here the DALI wiring is interesting. Sometimes DALI wiring is not available. Good opportunities, I think, in these circumstances to have a light control in the system, in the building. Now we talk about the special architectural requirements of the building. This individual degree we've talked before, you implement it and increase the quality of the architecture so that the building's resale value is increasing. Wireless communication helps. It's got a big advantage when we talk about the installation time. If you just leave the electrical wiring and just change the lamps, and if you work with a wireless communication, that makes this installation easier and uses up less time. We have very few skilled workers at the moment, skilled employees, so wireless communication is important. We talk about the new laws. Who is supposed to do it? Who's supposed to install all the wiring and controls? We do not have enough experts to install it. Good wireless control systems are part of the answer here. This brings me to some technical aspects. Wireless systems. As an association, people ask us, can you recommend a good system? What is the best systems? In our working groups, we analyzed it's more than 15 different wireless control systems that we looked into. We won't give you a recommendation. There are many, many good systems. I'd rather talk about things that they have in common, about the properties. If you choose a system, many things we have in common, many things work well. In the meantime, there is a big fight between the protocols, and for us as the manufacturers, it's pretty important to say we have cheap products implemented relatively cheaply, but it's got to be easy to install and it's got to work out for the users, for the consumers. They have to work and live with it without driving costs up. Many of the modern systems are mesh networks that are connected. Well, we want to save energy. Wireless networks from IT, like Wi-Fi, have a very high standby power consumption. But if we talk about 500 milliwatt or 1 watt standby power, for an installation with a lot of light points, you won't win much. You want to reduce, of course, your standby consumption, and the mesh network is very helpful. What is a mesh network? You have the radio signal that is transmitted from one point, from one node to the next node, and the bandwidth can be very low, and you simply have to be able to reach the next neighbor in your mesh network. So you can reach each and every node. In a building, you have a big advantage, because in the building you have radio waves, you have things that have a negative impact on the radio waves. You can route them, overcome these obstacles, and the endpoint reaches the signal and has this very high functional safety. Even if one of the nodes don't work anymore or will fail, the mesh networks can reorganize themselves. So functionalities are guaranteed. You exchange a sensor, you exchange a lamp while the system is running without having negative effects on the function, apart from the device where you do some exchanges. The DALI network is important. We have a lot of substance of installed DALI devices, lots of devices that people want to continue using. Most control units, wireless mesh networks also use bridges, and they also work in what we call the DALI 2 world. If you use a DALI luminaire or DALI lamp, you have a protocol converter. or maybe an entire segment of the network with a normal DALI 2 via networks. And only the parts that are necessary will be wireless networks. DALI offers also DALI Plus. It's wireless. So DALI Alliance said, have a look at DALI Plus in the context with mixed installations. DALI 2 and wireless DALI offers you the opportunity to be very flexible with these installations. And many solutions are very good, like with Bluetooth and other opportunities. And if you have all the functions, if you support the functions, if you have this type of network, this type of connectivity, it'll work very well. Experience has shown. How to plan and commission it. Planning and commissioning, big process. It starts, first of all, to plan everything, units, plan the units. It's an installation pressure because you have to install the lamps somewhere. So it is very important to have installed products, to find the products again. So the mobile phone is a very important device. Most systems today can help you to measure a signal strength, to find the installed devices and commission them. We have planning software. It's web-based. And you no longer have to install an application. So it's a very nice method. How you commission the system, how you support the documentation with tools that everybody uses. You have it in your pocket, the mobile phone, you carry it with you anywhere. You don't have to carry special tools or hardware with you. That's my last chart. Certain additional benefit of connectivity when you think about maintenance. Very high cost factor really is this topic, diagnosis, or especially of emergency lights. In many systems, you have the opportunity to see, diagnose data, check them. It depends on your regional regulations, what the emergency lighting units require. So many units allow today to have the required emergency light testing. And if you have a good unit, if you have a good control unit, you can query it, even remote. And this type of remote maintenance helps you because you don't have to have a person to do a physical control all the time. That's a very nice feature. You see the advantages of digitization. These services can be run locally. You have them in the cloud, in the internet if you want to. So remote maintenance is possible. It depends on the size of the building. So please talk to the manufacturers and look for a suitable solution. Many solutions are available already. This brings me to the end of my presentation. How am I for time? Quite good? Quite good. So perfect usage of your time. One question. I have one.